Welcome to the D-Shift podcast, where we provide inspiration, motivation, and education to help you transition from the challenges of divorce to discover the freedom and ability to live life on your own terms. Are you ready? Let's get this shift started. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the D-Shift podcast. And I have to tell you, I have the privilege of interviewing Shaelene McInnis. I was actually on her podcast. So this is kind of a podcast swap thing we're doing here. But Shaelene has a really important role to play for both entrepreneurs and people going through divorce. So Shaelene left corporate Canada. Yay, another Canadian on the podcast. I'm so excited to do that. In 2008, and she started her own business, Books in Line Professional Services. And she is a trusted resource that has helped thousands of people with their financial and business dealings, financial perspective, getting their ducks in a row and all their things in a line and really being successful. And she is also a published author on books on business success and also on divorce. And so I think this is kind of a real convergence of the topics that we like to talk about on here. So Shaelene, welcome and thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, Shaelene McInnis, Books in Line. We do accounting, bookkeeping, taxes. When I was in university, I had taken women's studies courses and written a paper on domestic violence. Then I went off to the corporate world and led a whole different life. Then I started Books in Line and started doing taxes and bookkeeping. And now it's very growing all the time. 8 employees, wonderful employees. And it's kind of come full circle because COVID, quite honestly, is the thing that brought me right back around full circle. With COVID, we started to get phone calls, 5 to 10 a week, from mostly women who were in financial trouble, and they didn't know what to do about it because COVID affected everyone, and most people not in a good way.
Yeah.
I found, though, that it really affected women a lot more because women pay equity has never been where it's supposed to be, of course, in Canada especially. And so a lot of women, when their kids had to stay home, they had to give up their jobs or they had to work to part-time because if they had a spouse, often the spouse made more money than them. So there was a lot of financial dependence, either on the government, single parents really struggled, single moms really struggled, or suddenly on their spouse. And with everything with COVID, with being locked in the house with someone, men and women, there was a lot of things came out. If there was already some problems in a relationship, they were just compounded.
Yes.
Whether it was addiction issues or any kind of abuse in any way. And so we started getting all these phone calls from people who had said they had been recommended to call us by their mediator, for example. And I was like, why are we suddenly getting all these phone calls? And then a lot of our own clients were calling us saying, like, I'm in trouble here. I don't know what to do.
Right.
I don't have any money and I can't get groceries for my kids and my spouse won't give me any money to do just the basic things. So,
right.
So it started to become a huge issue during COVID. And so I started to document because I've been hearing the same things over and over and over again. And I was like, okay, I can't keep answering these questions every 10 phone calls a week. I'm answering all these same questions. I'm going to put everything into a book. And this is how it started. So I wrote a book. It's called Divorce Self-Defense for Women. I have the Canadian version and the American version. And it's my way of saying, especially talking about financial abuse and saying, this is financial abuse.
Right. Yes.
Because most people don't know that they're being financially abused when they are being financially abused.
Yeah.
And that's what I started to talk about. And I started to say, this is financial abuse. This is financial equality. Financial equality doesn't mean that 2 spouses are bringing the same amount of money into a relationship. That's not what it means at all. Financial equality means that 2 people have the same say in how the family's money is used.
Right.
They have equal say.
And do you want? I have to jump in here and say this
Yeah, please do.
with the whole deal with COVID. I had an attorney, Lisa Zeiderman, who deals with financial abuse, and she's out of New
Okay.
York, and she was talking about the the legal issues that started coming up, where
Yeah.
a lot of times partners, typically men, but not
Hmm.
always. Let's face it,
Yes. Yep.
there's bad actors on both sides, but in her cases she works mostly with women, so it was men that she was seeing that had other credit cards, had debts, had loans, had lines of credit, hadn't
Yes.
paid the taxes, and
Right.
all of they were getting all of that correspondence sent to their
Hmm.
offices, so it was never getting to the house, so the spouse
Yes.
wasn't seeing it, and
Yeah.
or the partner wasn't seeing it, and then all of a sudden in COVID the offices started forwarding the mail to the homes, and then all of a sudden,
Exactly.
like, everything was out in the open, that there was all this stuff going on. So
Exactly.
I
I
think,
saw the same situation. Yep.
yeah, I don't
Because
think whether it's Canada or the United States,
no.
the inequity in pay is definitely there. And
Yep.
I agree with you. This really did hit women. I think COVID did, because I think too, um, the the natural sense is, well, the woman will take care of the kids. So when the kids were home, the husband or the one partner would continue kind of working from a home office, and the woman would quite often have to work from a computer on the or a laptop on the kitchen table, feeding the
Table.
kids and making sure they're doing their schoolwork.
Trying to
So,
juggle, exactly. You
yeah,
said they're trying to
yeah,
juggle everything,
yeah,
including their own work. So, yeah, a lot of inequities came out with financial abuse, especially. Again, most people don't understand when they're being financially abused. I can give some examples.
yeah. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that,
Like
Shaelene.
examples that people don't realize. If you come home and your spouse wants your wallet and takes your money out, or takes your money out without you knowing it, or demands your paycheck, that's financial abuse. That is not equal say in the finances. But it can be the other extreme. I have a situation where a woman contacted me because her common law husband at the time, he didn't want her to work. He wanted complete control. So he would hide her keys so
Yeah,
she couldn't get to work.
right.
Or he would say, I'll be home at 6 and I'll take care of the kids. And, she was a nurse, night nurse, and she couldn't go to work because he wouldn't show up.
Yeah,
So things like this, where they're trying to control everything. Another case where a woman, she'd go to her office to work. She was an office worker, and her spouse would show up constantly.
yes, yeah,
So her boss is getting mad at her because her husband keeps showing up and calling and calling and calling. These are all ways of financial abuse.
right.
And that I do a lot of now. I do a lot of coaching for women in the process of divorce, either pre-divorce, during divorce, or after divorce. Another woman, every time she came home when she was grocery shopping, she had to hand over the grocery bill so that it could be examined fully as though she was a child. And the husband actually had kept a lock on the fridge. So everyone only got to eat when he said that they could.
Yeah. So
So
that's almost going to, and I was going to say, like, a lot of these, as you can hear, this is not like a really strange situation. This happens quite
all the
more
time.
frequently than we would like to. And obviously some of this is starting to blend into stalking behavior, into
Yes,
emotional control. So
absolutely.
I heard, and I've said this on many podcasts, and I don't know who to um give credit for this statement, but I think that the thing was, emotional and physical abuse is the cage, but financial abuse is the lock.
Yep.
Because
And
if you
that
don't
is
have
the
money,
lock.
you can't leave.
There's
You
so
can't.
many, so
Yeah.
many people, especially now with where we're at with interest rates and houses and everything. It's like, what am I going to do with my kids? I'm not going to have anywhere to go if I leave.
Yeah.
Right. And I
Yeah.
can't kick him out because I don't have enough to pay the mortgage. So people are strapped so badly right now.
Well,
Um,
I was going to say
okay.
the other thing is, really, if you are living in a home with a person and you are both residents of that home, it really doesn't matter whose name is on the title or whose name is on the mortgage. If you have both been residents of that home, neither one of you has the right legally to evict the other person
No,
unless you go through the courts and get that done. I
that's
mean,
right.
both people can sit there and go, I'm not moving.
That's
And that
right.
happens more often that also happens more often than not
Happens
as
all
well.
the time.
Yeah.
Actually, it happens all the time. I have a situation where a woman was running a hairdressing. She was a hairdresser, and she had built up her whole basement and put in sinks and everything so she could work out of her house while raising two kids, of course. And she had decided that her and her husband, that she had to leave him. He was an absolute control freak, and he was so angry with her that he started smashing up all of her workspace, all of her sinks and mirrors and lights and all of her equipment that she had paid thousands of dollars for, to the point where she had to lock herself and her two small children in the bathroom because they were so afraid that he was going to attack them while he was smashing up her whole basement work area.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's a lot of types of abuse there. That's
Yeah.
mental, obviously, but certainly financial.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to work. And if you can't work, you have to stay with me. Same situation. She left him with her kids, and she was self-employed. So she had left her paperwork behind, her receipts and all her invoices and everything she needed to do her taxes. So she called him and said, I need to come. You leave the house so I can come and pick up this paperwork. He said, nope. If you want this paperwork, you can have it when you move back in.
Right.
You can have your paperwork back.
Right. Right.
So things like that. The tax situation is another huge financial. There's another place for financial abuse. I advise everyone, men and women, if you're having your tax returns done, you make sure that you see them and sign off on it. Everyone has to sign off. Here in Canada, it's called a T183, where you have to sign off saying, okay, I've seen my taxes. I agree with the results. If you don't see those taxes and you're like, oh, my husband's doing my taxes or my wife's doing my taxes. No. Like, obviously for me and my husband, I do the taxes clearly because it's my business, but he sees everything because
Right.
I'm like, no, here, see, because you have to see them and sign off on them. I have a woman who is sent to me by another mediator. And this mediator said, I really think you need to go and speak with this woman who owns this accounting company, and you need to talk to her. I remember it as clear as day because it was a Friday. And she had called me and she said, I don't understand. My mediator, my husband and I split up last November, which was like 3 months earlier. She says, my mediator says that I need to speak with you about getting my taxes done. She says, but my husband does my taxes. And I was like, okay. I said, do you work? She's like, no, we have 3 small children. I've been home raising them for 6 years, 3 small children. And I said, okay. I said, my guess is that he has been doing the taxes for the 6 years, but he's been saying that that you're both separated and that he has the children and he's keeping the child tax benefit.
Right.
Which in Canada is a lot of money for 3 small children. So she started to cry. This is why I remember it so well. So I said to her, tell you what, take the weekend. We'll talk again on Monday and we'll come up with a plan. Well, over the weekend, she spoke with her soon-to-be ex-husband, and he said, yes, that he had filed his own taxes and that he had claimed that they were separated, but that no, he hadn't claimed the kids, which of course turned out to be a lie.
Sure.
The other thing, and here's another point of financial abuse, is he said to her, you have to say that we were separated as well, or we're going to get audited. They're going to audit you. This is a threat. This is a very common threat. I'm going to call the Canada Revenue Agency. I'm going to call the IRS and tell them that you're doing this, this, and this. The CRA hears this stuff all the time. I know.
Sure.
And so I called her again on the Monday, and she says, well, this is what my ex-husband says, that I have to do this. Let's go back to, I have to do this. We'll go back to that. And I said, no, if you go and you're going to lie to the Canada Revenue Agency and say that you were separated when you weren't, and no, you can go to jail for that because that's intentional. This is not, I made a mistake. This is intentional. So we did those 6 tax returns. We sent them all in properly, saying, no, they were married, because she was supposed to be getting the child tax benefit. He had been getting it the whole 6 years, every month, put into a separate bank account. She was supposed to be getting it for the kids.
Right.
So now, of course, we're fighting for her to get that money because it's supposed to go to her.
Right.
And he's furious because now he's being audited. But see this all the time.
Yeah. And I know down here, because some of my clients I deal with some of my clients have fairly high assets, and it doesn't matter whether it's a high asset or whether it's a more modest income or even a low income, relationship. you're entitled to what you're entitled to. And for
Right.
somebody, $100 is a lot of money. For other people, $10,000 is a lot. It's
Yeah.
all relevant. But one of the things that I do know is that if your partner has misled you on the taxes,
Hmm.
I know down here in the States, I don't know about Canada. I'm sure they have something like this. It's called an innocent spouse. And you
Hmm.
apply down here to the IRS, you lay out that you weren't provided access to this, you didn't know about this, and they review it, and you can actually get that protection so that
Yeah.
if they do come after you through an
Right.
audit, you have already sort of got your ducks in a
Protected
row and
yourself.
told
Right.
them that
Right.
I didn't know this was going on. Is that
Right.
available in Canada as well?
Not really. They've
Okay.
only last year only, and we were doing taxes for women who had separated from their husbands or husbands who had separated from their wives. But to do the taxes and to e-file them online, you had to have the spouse's income. So say you broke up with the person
Right.
the year before, so you're doing 2023's income taxes. You're like, well, I don't know my spouse's income and I can't call them because we don't talk or I'm afraid of the person or for whatever reason. Then we couldn't do their taxes online. We had to mail them in, which took, 12 weeks. And these are people who were waiting for their benefits, the child tax benefits, their HST credit, GST credit, trillion benefits, different things. But there was no way to do it.
Right.
So now they finally, last year was the first year when the Canada Revenue Agency said, okay, well, we'll allow you to file it and, fill out this form saying, this is my situation. My spouse has disappeared or he ran off or she ran off or so then the person can still get there or this person has been charged with stalking me. I can't go back to them and ask them,
Right.
hi, by
Right.
the way, how much was your income last year?
Yeah. Thank you, Stalker, for sharing that information.
So
It's
this
kind of
only
crazy.
happened
Yeah. Yeah.
last year. We've been fighting for this for years and years
Yeah.
and years because we have lots of situations where you're like, but you can't file the one spouse if you broke up the year before. If you broke up in 2023, you're doing 2023's taxes, but you can't file them. So
Right. Right.
that's finally just changed. It's
So
ridiculous.
taxes are a big thing, but I know you also help people understand like what basic financial information should you be aware of. And just kind of as a heads up, if you're a woman, whether you're going through divorce or contemplating divorce, or maybe you're in a really healthy relationship, I hate
Yep.
to say this, but as somebody who has had this happen,
Yep.
health issues can come up and your spouse can be
Right.
incapacitated where they can't share that information
That's
with you.
right.
So what are the basic financial things that you should be aware of, even if you may not even choose to have anything to do
Yep.
with them? But
Yep.
what should you be aware of?
First of all, you should always have your own bank account. Both spouses should have their own bank account. I can't tell you the number of cases here, and I'm sure in the States it's the same thing, where the husband has passed away. Meanwhile, especially the older generations, but it's only his name on the account, on the
Yeah.
checking account. So here's the wife going, oh, but I have no money. All the money's tied up in probate and they're waiting 2 to 3 months with no money and they can't pay any bills and they're
Right.
actually going into poverty because they don't have access to the money that is actually theirs. No
Right.
matter what, each partner should have their own bank account with money. Have a shared account as well. That's fine. But have your access to your own money because God forbid something does happen to someone else. You're right. And I have to confess this. As I was writing this book, it dawned on me and I was like kind of my own gut punch where I was like, if something happens to me, my husband doesn't know anything, nothing.
Yeah.
Like all our bank accounts here, a mortgage, everything. So I created a spreadsheet. It's 78 lines long. I didn't save it on the computer. I printed it out and it's in a safe. But it's like, here's our life insurance policies. Here's who you call. Here's their phone number. Here's our access code. Here's the policy number. So for everything, here's our kids' education fund. Here's our savings account. Here's how much we owe on the truck. Here's the loan. Here's the bank we have the loan with. Every single thing. Here's our mortgage. Here's our mortgage number. Here's where we pay the mortgage. This is how much we pay per week.
Yeah.
This is our mortgage manager. So it was 78 lines long of going, okay, here's our credit cards, da, 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 and listing everything because I thought if something happens to me, and everyone should do this,
Yes.
if something happens to you, the last thing you want is your grieving spouse to be trying to figure this out. I looked at this spreadsheet, which was pages and pages and pages and pages long legal paper, and I was like, I could not even imagine my husband going through grieving and my kids going through grieving, God forbid something ever happened to me, knock on wood, and then trying to figure all this out, the stress on that would absolutely be breaking.
Yeah.
So everyone should have their own bank account. Make sure that your spouse has the information that they need in case something happens to you. Now, if you are in a situation that's more unhealthy, let's say, make sure that you have copies of everything, all the investment papers, the mortgage papers, mortgage statements, everything. Make copies of everything, because if something, credit card numbers, how much is on each credit card, is your name on the credit card as well as the other person, have all of your financial information, at least your last 2 tax returns. I recommend 3, but at least hard copies of your last 2 tax returns. Have those, because you're going to need them. If it doesn't work out with your spouse, you need to leave, and you need to qualify to rent another place, or to buy a car, or to buy another place. They're going to want 2 to 3 years of your tax returns.
Right.
You need to have that stuff. Make copies of everything. And if it's possibly an unhealthy relationship, if it's not working at the time, you're like, I don't really know where this is going, make copies, take them to a safety deposit box. Open them in a different bank account than your regular bank account. And now in Canada, the managers at banks are understanding that there are situations where women are going in, and men, I'm sure as well, saying, listen, I can't have paperwork going to my house.
Right.
I need to open a bank account here with nothing going there. Everything can come to me online. And again, obviously, I'm going to have to say this to everyone. Change your passwords. Yeah. Change your password. Get a password on your phone. Make sure you have passwords, but change them all. Open a safety deposit box. Put in these important papers that you might need one day. Give them to a trusted relative or friend who can hold them for you safely.
Yes.
In a fireproof lockbox, by the way. So everything to do with the finances, that part I would recommend highly. Having the separate bank account, I would recommend highly. Also, then start to look at what has both of our names on them. And if we're not in a good place, I need to think about this. I had a woman call me. Her and her husband were not doing well at all. And he had wanted her to sign. This goes back to what I was originally saying. When someone says, oh, you have to sign this, or my lawyer says you have to sign this, or the accountant says you have to sign this, or the banker says you have to sign this, does not mean you have to sign anything. Do not sign anything until you have another separate party look at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in this case, this woman's husband came to her and he said, well, he wanted to get a HELOC. It's a home equity line of credit on top of the house for $400,000. And they were in a very bad place, but he needed both signatures. And I said to her, I want you to understand that if you sign on to this, and if he can go take the whole 400,000 and go to Costa Rica. Yeah. And you are stuck with paying the $400,000.
You're on the hook. Yeah, absolutely.
You're on the hook. So look at all the debt that you have in common. I say this to a lot of women. Say you have a joint credit card that keeps being rung up by your spouse. That's another form of financial abuse, by the way. They keep running up the credit card but not paying it down. That's another one. So, or they take your credit card. That's another one. So if you have a credit card, a shared credit card, say there's $7,500 on that credit card and both of your names are on it. You want to start to get that paid down little by little. However you can do it. If you can put $100 on, then you call them and you have it lowered to $7,400.
Right.
Keep having it lowered and lowered so that it can't go over the limit. And when it's down to zero, get off of that credit card. If you're in a bad place, get your name off of that credit card. Make sure you have your own credit card. I say this for both spouses. Have your own credit card because you want to have decent credit.
Yeah, you need to have that credit file. Yeah.
And the best way to have decent credit is to keep one credit card for a long time. So if you have like 3 credit cards and you're trying to decide what to do with them, the longest one that you've had, keep that one because that gives you the best credit.
Yeah. Shaelene, this is a ton. I mean, this is a lot of information, and I know we could go, and we're already at the end of our time, and I know we are just brushing the surface of the support and the information and the knowledge that you can share with women who are concerned about their financial status or their financial standing, and they are going into or contemplating divorce or in divorce. So let me ask you, because this has been, like I say, this has been, I'm sure people listening are going like, wow, that is something I have never even thought of. What do you think of all of this is sort of the golden nugget that you would like people to think about?
I think that if you're in a relationship or if you're getting out of a relationship, before you get into another relationship, or anyone talking to their kids, understand the red flags. If someone says to you, well, I can't buy this car because I have a bankruptcy, can you sign for it? That's a red flag. No, under no circumstances. If that person can't clean themselves up enough to sign for a car, then that's a real problem. Or someone who says, I have two situations like this. Well, I want to open a business, but I can't open a business because, I signed a non-compete with my last company, or, I had a bankruptcy. How about if we open this corporation, but we put it in your name, but I'll run it?
Right.
Don't ever do that. I've got people in huge financial trouble with that. Any red flags like that, anyone who is always wants money from you, always asking you for money. I say this to my daughters, and I have two daughters. When they start dating, they're teenagers right now, they're going to take enough cash with them at all times so that if they go to a restaurant with a person and he says, well, you know what, I can pay, but you're going to have to do this or something along those lines. I can pay for myself.
Yeah.
Always make sure you should be in a perfectly healthy, loving relationship and be financially independent. Two financially independent people is great because then you can share all kinds of stuff and create a great life.
Absolutely. That is really important. Yeah, really. You don't want somebody emotionally, physically, financially. You want to be able to both be healthy and support each other. Sure. And sometimes one person's going to may lose a job, and then they have to rely on the other person, and that's normal and healthy, but not if that's the status quo in the relationship. So
two healthy people make a healthy couple.
They do. Yes. I love that saying. Shaelene, if people want to reach out and find out more about what you do, now you work with people both in Canada and the United States.
Yes, I do.
So what is the best way to reach out to you?
Info at booksinline, booksinline.ca, info at booksinline.ca. My book is on Amazon. It's fantastic. It has all kinds of advice in there. Divorce Self-Defense for Women. By Shaelene McInnis. It's difficult spelling. I'll make sure that Mardi has all of my social media links, and anyone wanting to reach out and just have a conversation, you're welcome to at any time, of course.
And I'm gonna tell you, Shaelene is a phenomenal resource, and she is such a kind soul that she will definitely be able to give you some pointers and help. The other thing I want to encourage people is do get the book. I have ordered a copy and it's on the way. And, I think that the more we all educate ourselves about finances, the better off everybody's going to be. So Shaelene, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate this.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mardi.
And I'd like to thank you all for listening in. I know that there's been a ton of information today. So, hey, play this again. Make sure that you soak it all in. And don't forget to drop in again next week when we have another episode of The D Shift. Thanks for listening and supporting the D Shift podcast. If you would like to attend live trainings by our amazing guests and have a chance to ask questions and get answers from our experts, join the D Shift crew. For more details and to sign up, head on over to www.divorcecoachforwomen and click on the podcast page.